Hello Pisces friends, I'm Annie Botticelli and welcome to my Pisces October 2022 Astrology Report Horoscope. There is a big tagline here this month for Pisces. The question, will you go back? And so, although we have a very long, diverse list of things to talk about this month, you will see this theme of the topic of returning back to something. So we'll go into more details about that. First, let's just do a quick overview to understand what we're going to cover here. And this is going to give you the summary of the energies of this month. We do have more salty aspects compared to sweet ones, which tends to come up with the experience of a bunch of different roadblocks. Like you're trying to do your thing, there's a roadblock. But most of the roadblocks this month in the form of challenged aspects are ones that will pass quickly. We do have some other very, very big, major, long-term situations going on, which we'll get into. And we do have quite a few trines, which are the most favorable aspect in all of astrology, and other nice aspects as well. So the ratio is noteworthy, but it's not the only thing to consider. We've got Mercury going direct on October 2nd with the post-transit shadow period clear October 17th. That means the month is divided in half, with the first half of the month kind of being in, with a lack of clarity and just sort of schedules and things falling through or plans falling through. And then we get more clarity as the month goes on. We'll go into more of the details of each of these topics, but just to kind of give you the flavor for the month. The Mars retrograde pre-shadow period is deepening as the month goes on, and finally actually goes retrograde October 30th. Jupiter's still in retrograde until November 23rd. We've got a full moon on October 9th, and we've got the eclipses. Eclipse season begins, and we have our first eclipse October 25th. Very big changes from that. And we've got the last Saturn-Uranus square. That Saturn-Uranus square, that was the storyline of last year. We had 3 clashes last year, and it has also come in this year as well. These planets have been in close proximity all of this time. So some of the things have fallen into the backdrop a bit, but they are there, and we will have the last clash. Okay, so we're going to hit the highlights of the Pisces chart, and I'll work in the list and how it's relevant to Pisces, okay? So the first important thing to know is that got a massive amount of energy in your partnership sections. This is drawing attention to the people in your life and the way that you relate to them. The fact that Mercury has been retrograde and is still kind of coming out of the shadow in this, relationship sector is showing that the topic of relationships is on your mind. And that question, will you go back? Will you go back to the same situation in your relationship? Will you go back with a certain person? Will you go back to engage with certain clients or coworkers or other people? Will you go back to your accountant after they messed up royally or, whatever the situation is? There's this storyline that you're reconsidering things and that you're trying things on. And the retrograde time is very good for that because we do have a lot of retrograde energy, even though Mercury is going to start to wake up around mid-month. We're still very deeply entrenched in that retrograde cycle, really until March of 2023. So you're pondering the questions about your relationships. You're pondering the questions about even people from the past, and some of them may be surfacing in a very big way. And you might be drawn to connect with people from the past, romantic and other. So this question, will you go back, is very, very big. And on that topic, Mars has been doing its pre-retrograde shadow period and will be doing its retrograde thing, really focused on your 4th house. The 4th house is the house of home and family. So you've got the question again, will you go back? Will you go back home, move back home? Will you move back to an area of the world that was home? Or will you go back to some place that felt like home or feels like home? So there's this question, this pondering, this trying on. Perhaps you're going to go for it and do a little trial period, but you definitely have a lot of this energy where you're returning back to something in the home, family, relationship sector. And some of this can be really, really good. You can go back to things that worked for you and your family. You can go back to places you've been that really feel like you're retrieving part of your soul. And, you can go back to things that you did in your relationships that were super fun. Like maybe you and your partner used to do a certain thing and that really worked well for you. Maybe you had date nights and you're returning back to that. So the whole spectrum of positive to challenging can be considered with this with this retrospective cycle where you're really going back over things. Let's talk for just a minute about the implications of Mars retrograde, and let's look again at the dates here. So the pre-shadow period for the retrograde, and let's just define that really quickly. Similar to if you're going to the beach and you cross over to the barrier island, you cross over the bridge, and you're not on the sand yet, but you see the beach stores and you see the tiki huts and stuff. You're kind of on the beach, but you're not actually yet on the beach, like your feet aren't in the sand. That's what these shadow periods are like. It's like you've introduced yourself into this sector of what you're going to be working with. And then the retrograde would be like getting your feet right in the sand and being there in the water. And then the post-transit, retrograde would be you're in the process of leaving and, you're still smell like coconut oil, and so it's just this beautiful cycle where there's not a super major line of delineation where the energies sort of ebb in. They get super strong, then they flow out. So Mars rules our ambitions. It rules, our get up and go and our oomph. So those kind of things tend to wane in Mars retrograde. So in general, you might be more lazy. You might have your big dreams or your big ideas might sort of take a back seat. And that is by design. So if you notice that's happening, don't be hard on yourself and just go with the flow. That is one of the big ways that you can have a super amazing Mars retrograde, is to just kind of follow the flow of the waning ambition. Another big thing to know here is that people might not show up for the things that they say they're going to do. And so if you're trying to get home stuff done, because this home sector, you might be feeling like you got to get some stuff done in your house or with housing. People might not be showing up to do work because they are also feeling lazy and unambitious. So it's just important to know that the more you can go with the flow, the more you'll be able to be happy in Mars retrograde. So it's basically a time to take a break from extra agendas and extra to-do lists and just kind of do the basic of what's required. And then you will be very happy. And then you can just let spirit and synchronicity fill in your unscheduled space with what you're supposed to be doing rather than what you think you're supposed to be doing. So Jupiter is also retrograde until November 23rd. And so some things that had been moving forward might be starting to go backwards. So if you've seen some things that had momentum and it stalled out, this might be why. Don't panic. Once we start getting into November and we're getting closer to when it goes direct and then it goes direct, certain big things that were going for you might start to pick up speed again, including your optimism. If you are feeling a little less optimistic since July, a little bit more down, sometimes, the great bringer-upper of Jupiter going retrograde can dampen our mood a little bit. You might need some serotonin boosters. Of course, I'm not a doctor. I'm not suggesting any, chemical interference here. But serotonin may be in some shorter supply at this time, and you can just look up natural ways to boost serotonin, like walking, like petting animals, like cuddling, like just things that won't interfere with your medical plan, but can just give you a little boost, including being out in nature. So this full moon in Aries, and the days around October 9th at 16 degrees of Aries, look for fullness, completion, drama, fruition to come to things with your physical body, your health, your image, your place out in the world. This is a sector of your life that's very much highlighted at this time. So you're in an experimental phase again with how you want to present yourself to the world, what kind of clothes you want to wear, what you want to do with your hair. And since we've got so much retrograde energy here, trying things on in a low commitment way, like a henna tattoo instead of a regular one, or like borrowing certain types of clothes from a friend to see if they work for you without, changing your whole wardrobe, unless you can afford to do that. This kind of experimental, low stakes energy as it relates to your image, also trying some things out with your health routine, can be very beneficial to you, especially at this time. And Jupiter is here in a long-term way, so you've got a long-term focus on revising how you are and who you are and how you walk in the world. But the full moon in Aries is going to bring in extra of that type of energy and also highlight your financial sector. So this fullness, completion, fruition drama you might see, for better or worse, come to your financial sector. Now we know that October 9th is just a guideline, and we feel those full moons 2, 3, 4 days before and after sometimes. So you might feel a little sleepless around that time. And plus the eclipses tend to make us feel a little bit more anxious and more insomniac sort of energy. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But just kind of know if you can schedule yourself light in those times, you might have some personal things to attend to, and you might be glad to have the breathing room. And in general, retrogrades are a better time to sort of leave yourself unscheduled, and this way you can take full advantage of the tendency for retrogrades to give you last minute magic. Okay, so just kind of be aware of that. Okay, so the next thing on our list is the eclipses. So let's get down and dirty with the eclipses for a second. We're talking about the Scorpio Taurus polarity. This cycle started at the end of 2021 and it's continuing until the end of 2023. Everybody has had a chance and an increasing chance to work with the story of my stuff versus our stuff, to work with financial arrangements and agreements and commitments and merging versus our independent autonomy. And there's a lot of shuffling around of that energy. So you might notice that at this time, either you're finding that you have to table some of the things that you want to do, your ambitions, which is actually nice, works very well with these retrograde energies, but you have to table those in favor of something that someone close to you needs. Or some people might have it the other way around, like you've been tabling some things long enough and you need to, make a little progress for yourself. But this shuffling around of your stuff and other people's stuff is a very big topic at this time, and you'll see the eclipses will really bring this up. So eclipse season started in September and really goes into December, but the strongest parts are the October, November, and that's when the actual eclipses are. So we've got on October 25th a 2-degree Scorpio solar eclipse. November 8th, we've got a 16-degree Taurus lunar eclipse. Fortunately for Pisces, both of these are in a great angle for you. So the odds that these are going to be beneficial, at least from the perspective of your sun sign or your rising sign or whatever it is that you're watching for, because this is for you, whether Pisces is your sun or your moon or your rising or whatever placement you watch for, then the odds are that you will have some positive aspects from this. And those of you who are closer to 2 degrees, so that's going to be like the February born Pisces, you all are more likely to have a kiss from this eclipse because it's in a favorable angle for all Pisces placements, but the closer you are to 2 degrees. So that's really, especially like February 21st, 19, 20, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th, like those days around there, you'll especially get the biggest kiss, but no one will be left out of this. Now, it's important to note that eclipses tend to bring non-negotiable changes that can be very life-changing, okay? And it's often out of your control. So some of this is something you've always wanted, and it's happening. So yay. Some of this is things you don't want to let go of, and you're sad. So that can, we don't know how it's going to go here, and everyone has a chance to be affected very strongly. The most important things to know about eclipses is that they tend to bring us along our karma and dharma path. So releasing karmic patterns, things that are not serving us, either from our ancestry or from past lives, if you believe in that, or wherever it came from. Letting go of karma and stepping into dharma, which is our highest expression in this lifetime, is going to be, you'll have an extra chance of that. So these eclipses tend to bring chances to step off an old path that's not leading you in a good direction and put you on a new and better path for a higher experience. In general, I suggest that, so I make a lot of resources, and I'm going to refer you out for some of this stuff, because if I went into deep dive details into all the facets of things that are going on, we would never get out of here. So I'm going to refer you to AnnieHelpsYouTV.com, or you can look up Annie Botticelli on YouTube. You can find my Eclipse playlist on the homepage, or you can search organically for these videos, okay? Eclipses in Scorpio. That's going to be true for everybody. Eclipses in Taurus. We are definitely starting to feel the eclipses from that November, or the energy of that November eclipse. So you want to be prepared for what that can bring you. These are summaries of all the ways that I've seen these eclipses manifest. So you definitely want to be up on that. And I'm also going to add to the equation eclipses in Sagittarius, okay? Because from the whole house perspective, Pisces will also have this energy in the 9th house. The eclipse will actually take place here. And this is going to relate to publishing, teaching, long distance travel, immigration, beliefs, ideas, religion, spirituality, teaching, learning, education. All of those things are very strongly highlighted from this eclipse. And if you look at the eclipses in Sagittarius video, then you'll also see more about that. And while you're on the topic, you can search for anti-Botticelli Mars retrograde, anti-Botticelli Mercury retrograde, anti-Botticelli Saturn square Uranus, and you can find deep dives into all of those things, which you really need to know for this month because it is a power-packed month. We really haven't had so many things collide at once in a long time. So let's just briefly talk about the Saturn-Uranus square. This clash of Saturn-Uranus has been the storyline that we've had for a couple of years of the old stodgy patriarchy with people in power doing whatever the heck they want, the old systems that are not working, the old ways of doing things, in some cases archaic, but also stable, versus this new energy of radical Uranus busting up the stodgy, new ideas, new energy, uprising, revolts even, freedom-seeking energies. And so what we're seeing with this clash is one of them is not better for us than the other. We're looking for the balance here. So Uranus is helping us to bust up the places in our systems that are not serving us anymore and are not current to our current situation. And Saturn is forcing us to look at these new radical ideas to see, are they sustainable? What do we need to do to make them sustainable? And they're looking through the critical eye of Saturn. They're getting pushed through the lens of the critical eye of Saturn, saying, what parts of our foundation and system do we actually need to keep in place to prevent total chaos? Because Saturn, as stodgy and annoying as it can be, is preventing more chaos. It's structure, it's order. So we're trying to find the balance of order, and the new, pretty much where it's like order and structure, or order and chaos, we'll also call chaos creativity, and so we're just finding the balance of kind of logic versus intuition and chaos versus creativity and trying to find that. So you'll see those forces at play in your individual life and in the world. And I definitely suggest you watch my video on this because this is like a very big thing that we're all going through. So in general, October is a time to leave yourself as unscheduled as possible, expect roadblocks, and if you know the roadblocks are going to be there, you don't have to be stressed about them. If something isn't working, do not force it. Mars retrograde, that's the biggest rule. It's not the time to push through and make something happen. It's the time to relax and enjoy the things that you've already created, be present with what is, maybe dream about some things for the future, but only take small steps or experimental steps and just kind of deal with what comes to you. This is the time definitely to be the spider where you hang out in your web and eat what comes to you instead of going out to try to make more webs or find food. So you just kind of hang out, see what comes to you, and that will be one of the easiest ways to deal with this period of time where you can make the most of all the energies. If you resonate with how I teach and you want to learn, go to loomlife.com and see my options for courses. I've got a Basics Astrology Course and I've got a Becoming a Professional Astrologer Mastery Course, which can prepare you for a career in astrology and teach you how to make your practice work. Or if you don't want to do it for professional purposes, you can just learn how to do it for your family and friends. Definitely look at my exclusive content portal. I've got so many goodies in here, AnnieBAstrology.com. where extra stuff that, either very early things or extra things that the public doesn't have access to, including do-it-yourself, learning how to read your natal chart and access to run a natal chart. I also have AnnieHelpsYou.com. That's the interface for all the free goodies I make for you each month. That site and CozyBySweetStarlight.com are wonderful blog sites that you will find more than you know what to do with for astrology-kissed living. And I've got 2 books currently out: Radical Prayer, Transform Your Life and the World in 28 Days, and Planetology, How to Align with the Natural Rhythms of the Universe. So these are all ways that you can interface with my work, and most of the stuff I have is free, so definitely want to take advantage of the free goodies I have for you. I hope you have a wonderful month, and I'll see you next month.